Well, hello everyone. Today is Wednesday, August 7th, 2019, and this is one of our live classes for the Accelerated Growth Intensive that we're running in the summer of 2019. And we didn't record all the classes, but we're starting to record a few of them, and we're only recording the parts where I'm talking all by myself and everybody in the class is muted. When we actually get to the class sharing part, we're not going to be recording that part of it. So let's take a look at our agenda today. There's really three main things that we're going to do. We're going to start with a review of where we're at so far. Then we're going to do a round robin check-in. And for those of you who are a little foggy on what your homework was last week, what I asked everyone to do at the end of last week is to work this week on getting your needs met. And we gave a couple tips on what you can focus on to get your needs met. You can maybe work on giving yourself the unmet need, or you can work on receiving it when other people give it to you. You can figure out whether or not you've got kind of one person you're overly focused on who you believe should be the source of that need, and you can kind of detach from that one and see if you can get the need met in other places. And I got many homework assignments turned into me, and I may not have looked thoroughly at every single one, but I did look at many of them. And there were a lot of really, really creative things that people came up with in terms of how to get their needs met. And so I was really excited to see those things. And so I'm hoping that you're going to be willing to share them with the rest of the class when we get to that part of it. But before we get to that, what I want to do is sort of review for everybody what we're doing and where we are now, just to give you context. So we have talked several times, and I'm going to keep repeating this so that you can be grounded in it. And that is, your main goal is to develop a completely sound and intact needs pyramid. So we've talked quite a bit about needs. You've got tons of videos on needs. We use Maslow's needs hierarchy because it's a simple model. It's not the only needs model out there, but it's the best model I've seen, and it really gives a complete picture and people get it. But the idea is that when you don't have a need met, you experience an emotional reaction that comes from your body, comes straight from the amygdala. It's a threat to your survival because your hierarchy of needs, if you just add a phrase onto that, this is what I need to survive in this world. So because everything in this pyramid is a representation of what you need as a human being to survive in this world, and everything in this pyramid is legitimate, then when you feel like you're lacking in one of these things, you're going to have an emotional reaction that feels like a threat. It feels like your survival is threatened. And that's why we have these very strong emotional reactions like frustration or deep hurt or extreme anger or high anxiety. And so what we're doing here with this model is putting all of that stress that you feel in context and helping you understand that although most of your stress is triggered by things that are in the world that are situational, a lot of your actual emotional stress response comes from a physiological response inside your body to what you believe is a threat to your survival. So we talked about how the goal of coaching, or the goal of personal growth, is to get you to a point where your needs pyramid is intact or sound. And that doesn't mean you never have an unmet need. But what that means is that most of the time, most or all of your needs are met so that you're able to feel calm and have a state of well-being and have a lot of energy and feel a lot of focus, and you're able to do whatever you want to be doing. And that when you experience an unmet need, because you have such an abundance of energy and focus, and because you know how to get your needs met, you make it happen very quickly. And the example I like to give is, if I'm starting to feel thirsty, but there are a lot of different places I can get water. So I have a glass of water beside me. I'm in my home, downstairs in the refrigerator. There's more water. There's water all over the place in this house. If I need water, I know I can get water. So I'm not going to feel a surge of panic when I have that need for water because it feels abundant to me. I feel like I have tons of skills to get it, and there are a lot of different options for me to get it. So if one of those options is closed off to me, then there will be another option to get it. So it's easy to describe that when it comes to water, but when it comes to intimacy or feeling validated or feeling valued or feeling appreciated, the things in the love and belonging and the self-esteem sector of the pyramid, sometimes it feels a little bit more fragile and doesn't seem like you can get those things from a lot of different places. But I'm hoping that what you're learning as you're going through this process is, wow, you know, I could actually consciously create a system similar to the water where there are a lot of different sources of me to get this need met. So that when one person disrespects me, I'm not having as strong of a reaction because I get respect from so many different other places. And that's actually what happens as you do the work of getting your needs met. It's not like you do anything magical. You're not living in this state of eternal bliss all the time. You still have many of the, you know, the same annoying things happen to you in life that happen to others. You know, you get in car fender benders and you have teenagers that talk back to you, and you have, you know, difficult situations in your job where you make embarrassing mistakes or you feel unsupported or someone lashes out to you. So you have all those things still happen to you, but because you don't need those things to go in any certain way, you're not having a huge emotional reaction. You're not feeling really drained. It doesn't stress you out as much. And so having an intact needs pyramid is the key to happiness and the key to effectiveness. And I'm going to keep coming back to that because sometimes this can feel nebulous, and I want you to have some very tangible concepts that ground you through this program. So you should always remember that the purpose of the program, and in fact the purpose of all of your personal growth work, should be getting a sound and intact needs pyramid, getting all your needs met. But getting your needs met can be easier said than done. So we did a lot of things to help you identify your unmet needs and kind of learn ways to get your needs met. So one of the things that we did, and this is more of a review right now, is we had you use your trigger log to identify some unmet needs. And then we had you pick one need and go through these questions. And so if you're watching the video, you could pause the video to write down the questions. But on one of our calls, in one of our classes, we walked through this exercise and had people answer all of these questions for one need, like to be valued or to feel love or to feel respect. You can do this with all of your needs, but the thing to keep in mind is the name of this game isn't what are the right needs and what are the wrong needs. Because when you came up with unmet needs, you were young enough to not have language yet. So the experience of having an unmet need is not a verbal, logical experience. It is a physiological experience. It's a feeling. It's a feeling like maybe a hole in the pit of your stomach or a surge of adrenaline through your body. And those feelings you may have associated with words as you developed language, but you're going to probably find any number of words that fairly well describe it when you feel an unmet need. So the idea of saying, getting to the conclusion that you have 9 unmet needs and you need to get each of those 9 needs met and each of those needs have a different word associated with it, that would be getting too technical about this. What you're trying to get is enough words around your unmet needs so that you can label them. And what I'm finding with most people is that it's some version of love and belonging or value. So it's usually some version of feeling like you're part of a tribe for most of us. Now, for some of us, it goes a little deeper than that, and it's a feeling of being safe. So it's usually a feeling of being safe and loved and part of a tribe and then valued within that tribe. And then there are a whole wide variety of words we can use to describe that. But if you pick a word, it just makes it easier for you to work with it. So we have you pick a word and we have you go through this exercise. And what this exercise was really powerful for people because it helped them understand how vastly different they were as human beings when they had their need met and when they didn't have their need met. And I had a lot of people tell me, wow, that blew me away, that I see how different I am when I feel like I have this need completely met and when I don't. And I turn into kind of a monster or a really unappealing person when I don't have my needs met. But when I do have my needs met, I'm a very, good, I come across as a very good person and I really have a positive impact on others. But when I don't have my needs, I don't come across that way and I actually have a very negative impact on others. So that was a really big aha that people got as they went through these questions. And then the second aha that we're going for in questions 4 and 5 are just the beginnings of how in the world do I do this? Because we believe that needs come from outside of us, from other people, which leads us to this place of I don't have control over being loved. I can't tell somebody to love me, so I don't know how to get love. So you begin, when you answer questions 4 and 5 on this list, to understand some ways where you could actually, if not control, influence the process, influence your life so that you're actually receiving more love, receiving more validation, and you may actually become aware that in some cases it is coming to you and you're blocking it. And so then that's the next big aha that we kind of work you through. And in order to do that, we need you to kind of really get some awareness of what it's like to have your need met and to not have your need met. So one of the things I had you do in one of the first classes is draw yourself a need spectrum. So you could pick a need, like here I have an example of appreciation and acceptance. And on one side, this is what it feels like to have the need completely met. And this is what it feels like to have the need not met at all. And I had you draw these spectrums for a very specific reason, and that was so that you could work on your empowerment log, which most of you have been working on now. And the empowerment log is different from the trigger log in that you are only focusing on one need. So if we go back here, and I don't think this thing is going to let me go backwards. There we go. If you go back here, you'll notice that we want examples. If, let's say, appreciation is the need that you're going to work on for your empowerment law, we want examples of when you actually felt appreciated, and we also want examples of when you felt unappreciated. If acceptance is the need, we want examples when you felt accepted or examples of when you felt completely judged. And so no matter what the need is, we want you to use your empowerment log for one need. And as I've told you before, but just as a reminder, once you've gone through the process the first time, it's easy to go through the process again. And you have access to that page. You have the program manual. You have all the tools. You can go through the process again and again. But I do want to warn you against getting too caught up in the beginning part of the process, getting too caught up in, oh, let me go through this with every single need, because we want to get you through the whole process with one need first so that you can experience the entire process of breaking through and what it feels like to actually start getting a need met in abundance when you didn't have it met before, and how that literally affects your ability to be more effective in the world and your feelings of happiness in the world. And then, as much as you want, you can kind of go back and say, well, let me kind of go through this again, let me go through this again. And we have some people that might run through the intense process maybe 1 or 2 times per year. You're not going to want to do it much more than that. Okay, so as you go through the empowerment log, you're collecting examples of when you do have the need met and when you don't have the need met. And the reason you're doing that is so that you can compare and say what's different. And what you're really looking for is what's different in my thoughts. What's different in my thoughts when I'm feeling like I'm getting the need met and when I'm not. And the aha we're looking for here is that in many cases, I am blocking the need from getting met because I'm discounting it. So I gave you homework last week, and the homework was to empower yourself. And what I was sort of playing off the empowerment log. So it's like, the reason I use the word empower is because the reason many of us decide that we're going to live with these unmet needs, if we have any conscious idea at all that we have unmet needs, the reason we decide or resign ourselves to living with the needs being unmet is because we don't feel like we have control over getting them met. So or we don't have the power to get them met. So when you empower yourself, which is why we call it the empowerment log, you're actually working consciously, deliberately, proactively on getting your needs met. And I asked you to start working on it and make a list of the things you're doing to get this need met. And those people who engaged in the process, many of them told me that it felt really scary and made them feel really vulnerable. And I want to let you know, sorry about the dog in the background, I have my window open. I wanted to let you know that that is to be expected, because the reason that we block these needs, these specific needs, is that when we tried to get them met as children, we were rebuked in some way. And so we felt really, really vulnerable trying to get this need met and not having it met. And we had extreme emotional reactions. So our memories as children of not getting these needs met are really painful. And so then when we start kind of reopening the box and saying, all right, now I'm going to try to get this need met, it makes us feel really vulnerable because we really don't want to experience that pain again. Now, the way I'm working through it with you, though, is very gentle, and we're not going to push you into anything that's extremely painful. It might feel like hard work, but most of the hard work is really just kind of getting your brain around the concept and then slowly sort of working your way into accepting, bringing in some of the stuff that you weren't allowing in before. So the way we're working through this, we're not going to like pull the Band-Aid off in a way that's going to cause a lot of pain. Okay, so another thing that I didn't really get a lot of time to talk to you about last week is that I created this little worksheet to help you if you're having a hard time figuring out what in the world you could do to get your needs met. So this is like another worksheet that you could just screenshot because I don't have it worked into the program guide yet. But what is the need you're focusing on? And then here are some prompts. What are you doing to get the need met? In what ways are you giving yourself more of this than you've ever given yourself before? Because giving the need to ourselves is a really important part of this process. If you have an unmet need, I can guarantee you that you're not giving it to yourself. So if your needs to be unheard, you probably don't hear yourself. And I have a lot of clients, I'll ask them what they want or what their opinion is, and that's a really hard question for them to answer, and they'll either skirt it or they'll say they don't know, and they won't be able to come to an answer. If people don't feel accepted by others and they actually listen to their negative self-talk, they'll usually find a lot of self-judgmental self-talk in there. So for the most part, one way that you can safely, without a lot of pain, start getting your need met is to give it to yourself. That's something that you have complete control over, so that makes it a lot less of a scary and vulnerable process. How are you consciously and graciously receiving the need from others when you might have dismissed it before? Now, the reason I'm asking this is because some people would say, go ask people to meet your need. And I would say, don't do that. Because if you do that, that is going to open up all those old wounds. And you're still not in the state. Your energy before you've got your need met is in a state where it's more likely to make others go away. This would be like telling a teenage girl who's got an infatuation on a teenage boy to go ask him to go out with her when she's already been dealing with infatuation and she's had many conversations with him and he started running the other way. So if anyone asked her, gave her advice and said, go after him, you know that's setting her up for failure and she's going to be hurt really bad. You don't go after people and ask them to meet your needs because you already have energy about you that feels awkward when you're asking to get your needs met. That's why it feels so vulnerable. So that's why, to make this a safe process for you so you're not feeling vulnerable, I'm not going to ask you to go ask people to meet your needs. But what I am going to ask you to do is become aware of when people are giving you the need and to receive it. And most of the time, that's going to happen with people you don't feel very vulnerable with. There are also people that you might look down upon or dismiss readily because you don't have your drama hooked into them. So if we go back to the teenage girl and the boy, we're not going to ask her to go get her love needs met from the boy, but she might have some other boys that are friends and some other girls that are friends, and when they're kind to her and they give her validation, we're going to ask her to receive that graciously. And the girl might say, yeah, but I don't have crushes on them. I mean, they're not cute, or whatever she might say. You know, these other boys that aren't cute, why do I care if they like me or not? And the goal would be to have her still receive the fact that these boys do think a lot of her, and that helps build her feeling of confidence. So then when the next boy comes along that she actually does feel like she has a crush on, her energy is going to be different, and she's going to engage with that one differently. The crush example is a great one because it happens to all of us. Okay, so this is just, again, something I didn't have a lot of time to go over with you last week, but it's another little prompt sheet. And for those of you, if you want me to try to create a little handout out of it, I can, but you could also screenshot it or just look at the notes and write them down and use it to help you write a list. I'll be incorporating these new handouts into the next version of the program workbook when I get it. So to say all that, what I want you to do for our round-robin check-in today is share a little bit about what your experience was this week of trying to get your needs met. And I'm going to expect that some of you had awkward experiences. So as always, you can always pass if you don't feel comfortable sharing. But if you do feel comfortable, I think the rest of the class members will appreciate it because they're going to love hearing something that makes them feel less vulnerable, because I'm guessing you're all going to feel the same way. And we're going to share things like, well, I tried to give it to myself. I tried to be kind to myself, but then I just laid into myself. Something like that. A failure would be fine. But I really want you to try to describe in a couple of sentences what your experience was trying to get your needs met this week. If you had a success, what I'd really love it is if you had something that you did that felt kind of successful, to share that. And if you had something that didn't seem to work really well, to share that. So what it says here in number 2, one thing you did this week to help you get your needs met that seemed to work, and one thing that was challenging about it. So I'm going to turn off the recording for those that are listening to the video, and we'll come back in when people are done with their round robin. Turning the recording back on, and I just was talking to people about having several unmet needs come up, and how as you go through this process, it may at first feel like you have one set of unmet needs, and then as you go through this, you uncover another set and another set. And I remember going through this process myself and feeling like I had about 5 different sets of unmet needs, but by the time I went through it, the 5th, they all fell into place. It's kind of like getting these random puzzle pieces. So one unmet need might be one puzzle piece, and then you get another unmet need, and it's another puzzle piece, but they don't fit together. But then you get this final puzzle piece, and then suddenly with the final puzzle piece, all the other puzzle pieces start fitting together. And so that's kind of how this is going to work, which is why I sort of use the puzzle metaphor in this program as well. But let's go to our next, and thank you all for sharing. Those were great shares. I wish I could share some of them on recording for those of you who are listening to the recording, just because they're so powerful. But what I want to share with you now is a video. And I don't know if you'll hear the music on this video or not, because I've played videos kind of in this format before, and sometimes the music has worked and sometimes it hasn't. But the good thing to know is that everything you need to know on this video is visual. So if you're hearing music in the background, great. If you're not hearing music in the background, you're not missing anything except the music. And I'm going to play this. This is about a 2-minute video, so I just want you to watch it really quickly. Okay, so now I gotta stop it here. Whoa, here it goes again. We'll just get to the next. There we go. So I don't know if you guys heard the music on that or not. I heard it. It was really loud in my ears, so I'm thinking maybe you guys heard it too. But if not, you at least saw the messages, and I'm going to let you reflect on that a bit. You're still all on mute, so you're not going to be able to debrief yet. But and I don't know if we're going to actually have time to debrief really quick at the end, but I think we might. We'll see. Actually, we're not. But I want you to think about some things. That's powerful. Some of you may be familiar with that story because I hear it in many self things, but I think it's very applicable to what we're doing. And I want you to think about the elephant and the rope. And I want you to think about if the elephant was going through this program with us and she had to identify her unmet needs, what might her unmet needs be? You know, might she have a need for freedom? Might she have a need to feel strong, right? So that she could break free. Who knows? But let's just say those were a couple of her unmet needs. And let's say we had the elephant in our class and we said, you know, you have some homework and your homework is to work on getting your needs met. What do you suppose that would happen? So I want you to just think about that. You know, the elephant might have a few ahas, but I'm guessing that the elephant might not still believe that they could break free from that rope, and therefore, they might let a little more. Maybe they'll walk around the tree, go, I'm a little bit freer because I can walk around the tree. I don't have to just stand in this one spot. Or, you know, maybe they'll feel strong because they lift something heavy up with their trunk. But that's sort of an example of probably where you're at right now in getting your needs met. You're starting to get your needs met a little bit, but you haven't yet broken free, and there's a reason why, and that reason why is probably showing up in your empowerment log in the way that you're thinking. So what I want you to think about for your homework this week is how do you think this elephant and rope story might apply to you as you're doing the work of getting your needs met? And just to kind of give you some anchoring, this is where we are in our 10-step program. So our trigger log, reflection, step 3, step 4, the empowerment log. I know the videos are a little bit behind where we're at, and that's not a problem because you're welcome to go ahead on the videos if you want. But where we're at for today is our homework this week is going to be to write a reflection paragraph. And what I want you to think about in your reflection paragraph is what am I noticing in my empowerment log about how my thinking patterns block me from getting met? Because your thoughts, your repeated thoughts, are reflections of your belief system. So if you were the elephant, the thoughts would indicate that there was never a thought in the elephant's head that rope would be able to break them free. The elephant would be saying things, but I can't break free. I can't untie the rope, right? Or like you would notice from the thinking patterns in the elephant's empowerment log that there was a belief of not breaking free, but it might take a while to get there because there would just never even be any mention of it because there would just be an assumption. There would never be the assumption. There would never even be the question in the elephant's mind. Like, unless somebody said, hey, do you think you could break free from the rope? The elephant wouldn't even think about breaking free from the rope. And I think that's what we're going for next, is what thinking pattern do you have in your mind that might lead you to what your rope is? Because what we're going to do in this program next is we're going to find your ropes, and we're either going to untie them or we're going to break them free. So with that, next week, do your reflection paragraph. Think about your needs. Think about how the elephant and the rope story applies to you in terms of getting your needs met, and write those thoughts down and share them to me by next Tuesday. So I'm not going to do a final round robin because I think we are over by a couple minutes, and I want to make sure that I honor your time. So thank you so much for being on the call today. Remember, all of you do have private time with me, and you should take it as you need it. If you haven't taken any time yet, and you're kind of in this place where you feel like you'd like to take it, go ahead and take it. If you feel like you want to wait for a little while, that's fine too. It's completely up to you. So with that, we'll see you next week. Oh, and I have one more thing. This is August 7th. On August 14th, we have free sessions that I'm putting out to the public. One is a free class from 8 to 10 in the morning at Webster and Irvine for those of you who are local, and one is a webinar at noon for those who are not local. For those of you that can make either the in-person session or the webinar, I highly encourage you to participate because we're going to be talking about the tool set that we use in the next part of this class. And you'll get it in this class series too, so you don't have to attend that, but attending that session will reinforce everything that we're doing here. So thank you so much, everyone, for being on the call tonight, and we will talk with you next week, if not before. Bye-bye.